Now let's talk about the arithmetic operators that are available in Python. It's more of a it's not the complete set. It's almost complete. You have everything you need here. But these are the ones that we are going to use in this course. Okay. Uh, so as you can see, we have addition, which is done using a plus. You have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, right? So plus, minus, times, divided by. The thing that is maybe not so common is the quotient and remainder part. Okay? So not only can you divide two numbers, okay, you can also find out the quotient and the remainder. So let's say you divide 5 by 2, right? You divide 5 by 2. What is the answer to this one? The answer is 2.5, right? Excuse me. But if you want to find not the actual result of the division, but let's say sort of a fraction, right? So when you convert this to a mixed fraction, right, what will this be? It becomes 2 and a half, right? 2 1 over 2. So this 2 is your quotient, and this 1 right here is the remainder, right? So 1 slash is for division, 2 slashes is for quotient. Okay, so it will only, in other words, it will only give you the portion before the decimal. This is the quotient. So 5 divided by 2 will give you 2.5. 5 double slash 2, which is okay, quotient of 5 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, and the remainder, which is done using the percentage. Okay, so 5, it's called modulo. Okay, the operator is called the modulo operator. Modulo. Okay, so 5 modulo 2 is equal to 1, because that's the remainder when you divide 5 by 2, right? The last one is exponentiation, which is raised to the power. So when you have, let's say, 5 star star 2, this would mean 5 raised to the 2, okay, 5 square, which is 25. Okay, right? 10 star star 3, this would mean 10 cube, which is 1000, right? So that's our arithmetic operators. Now, as you might have guessed, the arithmetic operators work on both integers and floating points, right? Int and floats. Okay, so arithmetic operators work on both integers and floating points. So, like 5 divided by 2, you could also have said 5 decimal 1 divided by 2. Okay, you can also totally say that, right? Uh, the other thing is, in the examples that I've shown here, I've only used literals, okay, but you can absolutely use variables as well. So instead of 5 divided by 2, you could also have said, let me clear this screen a little bit. You could also have said a divided by 2, okay, provided that the variable a exists. It must exist before you do that, okay, otherwise Python will complain. So Python must have a way to know what the value of this variable a is, right? So arithmetic operators work on numbers or numeric literals and and numeric variables. Numeric variables. Okay. So let's check out a few of the expressions in action. So we go to our replit, and let me clear the screen. And all I'm going to do is I am going to type in some operations. Okay, so let's for example say 5 divided by 2. Let's start with that. 2.5, 5, 2 slashes, which means quotient, the quotient of 5 over 2 is 2, right? 5 modulo 2 is 1. Okay. Now, what if the number that you are trying to divide is perfectly divisible? So what if you have something like, what if you have something like 4, so 4 divided by 2, that will give you 2 decimal 0, right? 4 divided by 2 is 2. What if, what will you get when you type 4, when you try to get the value of 4, the quotient of 4 over 2? It's still 2, right? And what about the remainder? What is the remainder when you divide 4 over 2? It's 0, right? It's 0. Okay. So the remainder would be 0 if the number is perfectly divisible. Okay. This is something that we will use later on. Okay. Uh, Later on in this course, where we write code that make decisions, okay, we will use this thing right here. Okay. uh, the fact that if a number is perfectly divisible by the other, the remainder of that division would be 0. Okay, we will use that later on. Okay, but don't worry about it right now. Anyways, so that's that. Let's do some other ones as well. Let's do exponentiation. Why not? 5 star star 2, right? That's 25. Okay, what if we have a decimal? So 3 decimals, 3 decimal 2 star star 2. That's this number right here. Okay, it's a big number, but it's quite precise. Okay. uh what if what will be the remainder if you have a decimal? If you're trying to divide a decimal, let's say 4 decimal 5 2. What is the value of this? This is 2. And 4 decimal 5, 4 decimal 5 modulo 2, it's 0.5, right? Why is this 0.5? Why is the remainder of 4 decimal 5 divided by 2 0.5? Because 2 perfectly divides 4, and all that remains is the 0.5, right? That's why that's the remainder, right? uh okay, so let's do a few other operations as well, but this time let's use variables instead. Okay, so let's do something. Let's try to use an operator on a variable without actually defining the variable first, and make sure that Python complains, right? So a star 5. Okay, so I tried multiplying a with 5, and what Python said was the name a is not defined. Okay, so I don't, so Python is saying I don't know what a is. Is a variable? You never defined a. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to first define a variable. Okay, you have to create that variable before you actually use it, right? So you have to say something like a equals 10. You first have to assign a value to that variable and then create the variable, obviously, and then you can say a times 5, and then Python will give you 50, right? By the way, one thing that I should mention, if you are from a different programming language background, uh, if you are not, don't worry about what I am going to say right now, but if you are from a language such as Java or C or C++, in Java, in those type of languages, you first have to declare a variable before you actually assign a value to it. But that's not the case in Python. Okay, uh, in Python, you create a variable when you assign a value to it. If you don't understand what I just said, don't worry about it. It's completely okay if you don't understand. But it's just a small difference that I wanted to point out in case you are from a different programming background. Anyways, so one of the things that I forgot to mention is you cannot have a variable like let's say you cannot create a new variable like let's say x and not assign it anything. So you cannot say things like this. That does not make any sense. Okay. when you first create a variable, you have to assign a value to it. So you have to say at least x equals something. You have to say x equals 0 or something. Okay. So you cannot just create a variable and leave it. You have to assign a value to that variable that you just created. Okay. So that's one thing to note in Python. Okay. You cannot just, there is no way to create a variable without assigning a value to it.